Hey everybody, this is Skater Zero. This is going to be another video on how to actually use some of these things that I showed in the demonstration video, which if you haven't checked out, you should go check out. I just sort of show how all these things work, or what you can do with all the new items in the Redstone update. I'm just going to be showing how the Analog State Change Detector works. So if you haven't seen the video where I demonstrate it, you should go check it out. But the idea is, this is the input, and these are the two outputs, the redstone lamps. They don't have to be redstone lamps, but it could be redstone dust. You could route it to wherever you need to. But this is the most basic layout. So the inputs here, depending on the strength here, you get different outputs. One is that this gets stronger, or gets bigger, or gets smaller. If you don't care, you can just take these two outputs and OR them together. So if it gets bigger or smaller, you get an output. Either way, you just have to get these two signals together, which could be kind of a trick because the layout is a little bit difficult. So the way that this works is, this is your input. This is just a repeater, in the sense that it takes the analog value here and repeats it here. So you have the input, and then this is a delay line, so it takes this value and repeats it and just keeps pushing it to the next one, but also adding a little bit of delay each time it does that. So that returns all the way out to here. So this I would call, let me grab some signs. So this is the delayed input, and this is just the regular input. So the way that this works is, you have two circuits really. The first one is taking the input and subtracting the delayed input. So this comparator is set to subtract mode, which is that little right clicking on it changes the mode. So that's in subtract mode. It takes whatever value you have here. It says, is it greater than or equal to the delayed value, which is going to not take us, it's going to take a little bit longer to update. So if this value, which is pretty much the same value on that side, there's a little bit of delay, is greater than what it used to be, which is the value you're going to have here at the delayed signal, then the output here is going to be that value minus that value, which if it's if it's a positive number, if this was actually greater than the delayed version, so if the new value was bigger than the old value, then you would get a and some number, whatever the difference was, output to this repeater, which then just boosts it to 15, so it's on or off. The opposite, if say the input was smaller, so if the input was smaller than the old value, which takes a while to make its way around the chain, if the input was smaller, it would say no, it's not greater than or equal to what's coming in here, so you would get nothing out and this stays off. The other circuit is the one right here. So you can sort of see that this is a subtractor with sort of an L shape. This is the same circuit, just facing a different, rotated. So this is the main subtractor. It takes the delayed input and subtracts or compares to the new input. So when you give it a new number, this becomes, say, a larger number. This is still an old number, the smaller number. It says, okay, well, the smaller number is not greater than or equal to the larger number, so nothing comes out, nothing happens because it got larger. But if this input becomes smaller, like this says got smaller, if the input got smaller, this is still at the old value, which is bigger. It says that bigger value is greater than or equal to the new smaller value, so output the difference between the two, which is some number, some value, which is then boosted using the repeater, and you get a pulse for the got smaller. And the reason you get a pulse is because eventually the delayed signal becomes the same as the input, because it's coming from the same input, it's just taking longer to get there. So eventually this value and this value are going to be the same, and these two circuits say, okay, well, is this value and this value the same? Or it says, is this value greater than or equal to this value? Because they're the same, it says, well, it's equal to, so it's greater than or equal to, output the difference, and the difference of the same 15 and 15 is 0, or 10 and 10 is 0, so the output is 0, and that's why this is turned off again. So demonstrating that again, if you haven't seen this already, if I flip 10 on, you get bigger because the value used to be 0 and is now 10. If I flip the next switch on, it gets stronger, so it will become 11, and you get the bigger. If I then switch up to 15, it says gets bigger. Now if I turn 15 off, it goes back to being 11, so you get a smaller pulse. If I switch off the 11, you get another smaller because now the value there is 10, and if I turn it off completely, you get another smaller pulse because it got smaller. And this could be used, if you have the daylight sensor, you pop that on there. Every time the value changes, so the sun is setting, we should be getting pulses for getting smaller because this value is getting smaller as the sun goes down. So you could almost use this as whether or not the sun, almost like a clock in the sense that is the sun rising or setting. You could use it for other things as well though. Any kind of time you need to check whether or not that value is changing and in which direction. And if you don't care which direction, like I said, just OR them together so that if either one happens, it will send a pulse to the output. So that's how that works. If you like this, please give it a thumbs up. I'd like other people to see these creations so that they can be a little more comfortable with Redstone, and I'd like to see some neat things that people can come up with these, and feel free to do video response or whatever if you do come up with something neat, and I'll see you later.